Welcome in, everybody, to Fantasy Pros. This is the Fantasy Football Podcast. It is me, Joey P, Joe Pizzapia, and with me today are not one but two Andrews, Andrew Erickson, Andrew Seifter from Fantasy Pros, both Fantasy Pros bros. And we're going to sit here, we're going to talk about the Week 11 wide receivers to trade, the ones we want to sell, the ones we want to hold, and a whole lot more. So Andrew Seifter, obviously the host of the Rest of Season Rankings podcast as well. So I'm going to press the guest right at the top here. I'm going to ask you right here, Andrew, as we switch gears to wide receiver. Let's talk about the most traded wide receiver on the Sleeper app right now, Amari Cooper, of all people. You want to be on the buying end, the holding end, or do you want to sell Amari Cooper right now?
Well, I'm an Amari Cooper truther, so I'm especially if you're sitting pretty for a playoff spot, I think Amari Cooper is a fantastic buy. Jacoby Brissett is filled in admirably for the Browns, but there's potential for a major offensive upgrade once Deshaun Watson takes over in 2 weeks. And I think Cooper's the guy that could really benefit the most there because Brissett seems to have a nice rapport with Donovan Peoples-Jones. So it's led to kind of some boom and bust games for Amari Cooper. But I think Deshaun Watson is going to really be able to get him the ball. And you look at the schedule coming up, it's pretty tough. But then once it comes fantasy playoff time, he gets the Ravens, Saints, and Commanders, all pretty favorable matchups. I also feel like this is a little narrative street, but the Browns are going to be eliminated from the playoffs at this point. They've dealt with so many PR hits for bringing in Deshaun Watson. I think they're just going to want to show off their toy. They're going to play YOLO ball down the stretch this season, throw the ball all over the field. And I think Amari Cooper is going to explode down the stretch for fantasy managers.
All right, well, let's play a little game. Trader Joe is back. Let's play Amari Cooper or Chris Olave. Who would you rather have rest of season? Andrew Erickson, let's start with you. You going to live once here for the rest of the season with Amari Cooper? Or are you going to take Chris Olave, especially with potentially that change at QB looming in Week 11?
Yeah, these guys I'm very torn between these two players because I think that both of them are very good buy low options right now. I will lean slightly towards Amari Cooper for some of the reasons that Seifert listed off with the fantasy football playoffs, two of which of his games are at home because Amari Cooper cannot do anything on the road this season. Don't know why. The guy just doesn't like hotels. Like, we don't know. Like, we're still trying to figure it out.
Does not like the free breakfast buffet. He is not a fan.
So I think that Cooper has the ability and the chance and opportunity to deliver like 30-point performances in the fantasy playoffs at home with Deshaun Watson that can really help win your league. Whereas Olave, he's cooled off obviously in the last couple of weeks. And the Saints offense, I think, is just, even if Jameis Winston comes back, like how great are they going to be? Their offensive line just has a lot of issues too. Like that's part of the reason why the Saints offense hasn't been as great. Losing Teron Armstead to the Miami Dolphins, just big misses across the offensive line. So I will lean slightly towards Amari Cooper here over Chris Olave.
Yeah, Chris Olave's trend isn't very good, so you make a good point too. He's also a buy low, but look, they're both kind of sitting in that bucket right now. So, Seifter, who would you rather buy low on? You want Chris Olave or Amari Cooper rest of season?
Well, I think after you heard me rave about Amari Cooper and you heard me, dismiss the Saints offense in the last show on running backs, I think you know where I'm going with this one. I'm taking Amari Cooper. I do think Jameis Winston going back as quarterback would be a net positive for Chris Olave. They'll be throwing the ball down the field more with Jameis, but it's not enough to make up the gap. I just think Amari Cooper is the more proven player. Jarvis Landry coming back for the Saints also messes up the target share potentially for Olave a little bit. So I just like the potential with Cooper. I can't resist that.
All right. Well, let's go on with another guy. See if you can resist this one. Amari Cooper or Christian Kirk? Who would you rather have rest of season here? Seifter, you could start this one.
Oh man, I'm a big Christian Kirk truther as well. So this one's real tough.
That's why I picked him. That's why I always do this. I'm always trying to push the limits here and test you guys to see where your love truly lies.
Oh man. I'm gonna stick with Cooper.
Okay.
I feel like Trevor Lawrence is still having some bumps in the road. Like he's doing well in the plus matchups. He's struggling in the tougher matchups. So I know they've got a decent schedule coming up, but I feel like there could still be some ups and downs with the Jaguars. Whereas I think we're about to see more consistency out of Cooper.
Okay. How about you, Erickson? Cooper or Kirk?
I think I'm gonna go with Kirk here. We mentioned the schedule for the Jaguars coming up after their bye week. It's excellent. And if you just look at Kirk's splits and Trevor Lawrence, he's just good in good matchups. Like that's when Kirk delivers his best games, is when they're favorable matchups on paper. So Yeah, I think that Kirk is going to come out of the bye week guns blazing and be really productive for the Jaguars offense. I think he's going to help you get to your playoffs. Now, Cooper may end up being the better asset for you in the playoffs, but like you say, Joe, you got to get there. So if I need wins now, I gotta have Christian Kirk.
All right, here's an interesting one too. JuJu Smith-Schuster, the stars were aligning for him. Everything was going well, and then unfortunately he got rocked. He has a concussion now. He's going to be out for this week. We don't know if that's going to be multiple weeks at this point, but we already know he is not going to play this week. He is done with his bye, though, so you hope potentially you would get him back maybe for week 12 against the Rams and Cincinnati. Denver's a tough one, but then we get Houston, Seattle, and another tough matchup against Denver. So he does have two matchups still looming with Denver. All that being said, when you look at the injury, when you look at some of the matchups ahead, is JuJu Smith-Schuster somebody you should be buying, selling, or holding Erickson at this point? Because I know a lot of people are asking themselves that question. A little window of awesome, now an injury. How much can I use him in the next few weeks to get me in the playoffs? It's a really important question to ask. And do I want to even have this guy in the playoffs?
Yeah, I think that he would be a sell for me, and it's unfortunate that he didn't get a chance to really complete that game because you'd be able to sell him for more because I think he would have had a productive game against the Jacksonville Jaguars. So, unfortunately, you're going to have to probably sell him for a little bit less than you'd like. But you mentioned the schedule is brutal. It is the hardest schedule for fantasy wide receivers for the Kansas City Chiefs, and with JuJu missing time, it's giving another opportunity for these other Chiefs receivers to step up and take on a bigger role in the offense. If Kadarius Toney balls out again, who's to say JuJu comes back to his 8 targets per game? That's no guarantee if he misses a week or two. These concussions can be very tricky sometimes. Guys don't always come back after 1 week. So factoring in that the matchups, like you mentioned, JuJu's kind of up and down play. He's been trending in the right direction, but we've also seen him have bad games with the Kansas City Chiefs. So I think for me, I am trying to sell JuJu because I think, even the rest of the season rankings, he's still up there. He's in the, I think he's in the 20 range there. So you can still get a lot of value
rankings
for him.
Right now. He is at 22 still right now, holding strong. Boy, that Kadarius Toney hamstring was holding strong too. You see him on that one leg hop all the way to the end zone. It's a wonder how he was able to do that. And I'm not even a Giants fan, and I'm salty about it. I can't even imagine Giants fan being salty.
I thought he actually got hurt of that play. I was like, oh my God, no, he's hurt.
For a split second, I did too. I was like, oh no, oh no,
he's just trolling the Giants.
Yeah, there you go. Look, everyone, I could have played on one leg this whole time. Andrew Seifter, let's go to you with this same deal here. JuJu Smith-Schuster or DeVonta Smith. Who would you rather have rest of season? These guys are back-to-back in rest of season rankings.
Yeah, well, this one actually, the news changed for me when I found out that Dallas Goedert is going to be out for a while. And I'll take DeVonta Smith now because I was concerned that there weren't enough targets to go around in Philly, and Smith seemed to be third in line there. And it was just leading to, he's a talented player, but it was just leading to more of a boomer bust kind of profile based on that. But I think with Goddard out, he should be getting more consistent looks in that passing game. They don't really have anything else to speak of at tight end. So I think he's the natural beneficiary of that injury. With JuJu, for me, it's kind of like he's a hold probably just because nobody's going to want to trade for him when they don't know the situation with his health. I feel like it's so up in the air. It's going to be hard to move him. But if you could, I agree with Andrew Erickson. I think that, Patrick Mahomes told us what he thinks about this situation. He said it's going to be a different guy every week. And, JuJu had 2 or 3 good games in a row, but he's not locked in. He's not promised anything. Toney has the skill set to play the kind of role that JuJu's been playing, especially if you get Hardman back and you get MVS in there. Those are
he's got the
bust
potential
guys.
to be the Tyreek Hill role. He is an explosive player. There's no doubt about that.
Yeah.
You watch Kadarius Toney, it oozes explosiveness. You don't have to, there's no doubt about that. So with the Goddard injury for you, Erickson, do you think the same way? You'd rather have Smith, even though you're talking about one offense with Patrick Mahomes, the most prolific passer potentially in the league, against a team that likes to run the football a lot, regardless of what those targets might be or might become for DeVonta Smith?
No, I think DeVonta Smith is the play here. He'd been suffering because, it was a Dallas Goedert week or it was an A.J. Brown week. And that's the reason why DeVonta Smith never got there. But in games where he's gotten the targets, he's been productive. And it's not a situation where, talking about with the Rams, where, Allen Robinson is going to have a, potential larger role without Cooper Kupp. Okay, but that's not Allen Robinson to the moon. No, that's not what's going to happen. At least I don't think that's what's going to happen. Whereas DeVonta Smith, we know he can deliver when he does get the ball because he is a talented wide receiver. So I think that he's going to benefit greatly from the absence of Dallas Goedert. So I would take him over JuJu.
All right, what about Gabe Davis, the explosive boomer bust Gabe Davis, Erickson? Would you rather have him or Juju rest of season?
I mean, I'm taking Gabe Davis because he plays the Browns this week, and he could go 30 points again. So I want that on my team.
All right, there you go. Hey, sometimes you just got to play 1 week at a time. That was very NFL coach of you. I'm just looking ahead. We're on to Cleveland. We're just going to look ahead to the Browns. Seifter, how about you? Gabe Davis or Juju?
Yeah, I'm taking Gabe Davis. I feel like he is. You have to live with the kind of player he is. He's a boomer bust player, but when he booms, he single-handedly wins you weeks. And I just don't think Juju has that kind of upside. And I just don't want to trade for an injured player. I'd rather get the guy that we know is actually healthy and in one of, if not the best offense in the league. I mean, I guess both of these guys are in the best offenses in the league, but I'll take the healthy one.
And don't forget, everybody, if you're trying to figure out trades here for your rest of season with the deadline looming, Trade Central, the Trade Finder, those two tools specifically over at MyPlaybook, fantasypros.com/MyPlaybook. That's the place to go. It'll help you find trades. It'll help you analyze ones that you might be trying to offer to other people, and maybe even show you ones you never even thought of that could help you not just get to the playoffs, but dominate there too. And the Fantasy Pros, remember that MyPlaybook app is free. Download it. Go to the App Store, sync your teams. That's all you got to do. And then if you want to upgrade to the premium tools and use those tools like the Trade Central and, of course, the Trade Finder, fantasypros.com/offers, make a small deposit. And just like that, you get the 6 free months of the Fantasy Pros unlimited tools there, which are unbelievable. I'm telling you, change your world. You want to win, especially if you're in a really competitive league. This is the way to do it. There's still plenty of time to win those leagues. Let's get into the guys you want to buy and sell at wide receiver. Let's start with our guest here, Andrew Seifter. Who do you want to buy in Week 11 at the wide receiver position?
I mean, I surprised myself a little bit recommending a Pittsburgh Steeler, but, Diontae Johnson, I think, is a strong buy at this point. Whoever has him in your league is probably pretty frustrated right now with Diontae Johnson, but the usage is still there for a really big breakthrough, I think. He's got far and away the biggest gap between his actual fantasy points and his expected fantasy points, according to PFF. And a lot of that is because he's got 0 touchdowns on the year, but he's got 9 red zone targets, which are almost twice as many as any other player on the Steelers. And if anything, that rate could even tick up now that Chase Claypool's not on the team anymore. You also look at the schedule. He's got the 6th easiest schedule remaining according to Fantasy Pro strength of schedule. So I feel like it's only a matter of time before a proven good player like Diontae Johnson puts up good numbers.
All right, Erickson, how about you? Your thoughts here on who to buy low at wide receiver in Week 11?
Yeah, I'm looking at Josh Palmer. He had a great game against the Atlanta Falcons and then really came back crashing down to earth against them in a much tougher matchup against the 49ers that everybody saw in prime time. He had 8 targets, 3 for 44. He still saw over 100 air yards. He ran a route on 100% of the dropbacks, 24% target share. So, his usage metrics were excellent up and down the board. And the coaching staff can talk about, Keenan Allen's going to practice this week and he'll come back. And Mike Williams, he's going to practice this week and he'll come back too. It's okay, are these guys really coming back? And I think people are convinced that, Josh Palmer's going to lose his role. I mean, I'm betting against Keenan Allen and Mike Williams both coming back. I just don't think that's going to happen. So I think Palmer right now, who's not valued very highly, I mean, he's in the wide receiver 40s in terms of rest of season rankings, but if those guys don't come back, he's the number 1 receiver on a team that throws the ball more than any other team in the NFL. So I don't see how he can rank so lowly. I think that he's really just the quintessential buy low wide receiver because you can get him for nothing. I really think that's really what you can do with Josh Palmer. You look at the schedule for the Chargers, Chiefs, Cardinals, Raiders, Dolphins, Titans. They're going to have to throw in all those games, and those are good matchups for a guy like Josh Palmer, who people are just kind of writing up because they're assuming these veterans are going to come back when I'm not assuming anything with these guys coming back from injuries because every team says that their guy's ready, and then what do you know? Keenan Allen's on IR. I'm just waiting for that report to be announced.
I would say Mike Williams before Keenan Allen, wouldn't you?
Yeah. I think Mike Williams
man, and I am. Back. I would be betting on Mike Williams.
And I think, too, Mike Williams coming back, that doesn't even necessarily deter Josh Palmer from having a full-time role.
No, not at all. He's not a possession-style wide receiver anyway. He's that big go-get-it kind of guy. All right, let's get to your sell high, Erickson. Let's talk to you about who you want to possibly move on from after Week 10 is in the books and Week 11 is upon us.
All right, you got to trust the process here. Christian Watson. Look, when you score 3 touchdowns and possibly your best game ever as an NFL pro, you're automatically put into the sell high category. And I know people may get upset about it, but like, Christian Watson, he's so talented. Yes, and that's true. Like, he is a talented guy. I liked him a lot coming out as a prospect, but you got to look at the facts here. Like, the guy's been on the injury report every single week of this season. This is the first game he actually kind of played in full. He caught 3 touchdowns against a defense that had never seen him play a full game before. Like, they just were not ready for his speed. So I think that other teams are going to adjust. This is a passing offense. You know, we were talking about in the last show how the Packers offense has really tried to be extremely run heavy. I mean, Aaron Rodgers barely threw the ball against the Dallas Cowboys, which is why Christian Watson had a 42% target share, because
they also took advantage of a great corner matchup too.
Yeah, Aaron Rodgers was not throwing the ball. He has been underwhelming all year long. I don't need to convince anybody of that. And yet now we just want to go all in on Christian Watson. I just think that's a little aggressive. And I think if you get him off waivers, I think that's a smart move. And then you immediately put him on the trade block, because I think you can flip him for a very good piece coming off a bad week, or package him with something else. Be like, oh, hey, you lost Cooper Kupp? Oh, you want this shiny new rookie? 3 touchdowns, huh? So I think you can get a lot for Christian Watson.
The shiny new rookie that was Romeo Doubs way back early in the season, he fetched quite a bit too. And look, Watson, obviously the clear, better prospect of the two, but the sentiment holds true. You said it, Andrew. Potentially his best game as a pro ever. 3 touchdowns. Even if he's a good player rest of the way, see what you can get. Kick the tires on it. All right, Andrew Seifter, you're up. Give me a sell high wide receiver for week 11.
Well, that one would feel nice, being able to get the pickup and immediately cash in on it. This one is more almost cutting your losses potentially with Deebo Samuel, but maybe not, because I'm sort of shocked he's still ranked as a top 12 receiver in the rest of season rankings at FantasyPros. He's been a top 20 receiver once this season, and that was with George Kittle missing time, Elijah Mitchell missing time. Christian McCaffrey's only been there a couple weeks, so things are not looking up in that regard. He's not getting nearly as many manufactured touches as he did last year or at the beginning of this season. And honestly, I feel like Jimmy Garoppolo prefers to throw to Brandon Ayuk, who's topped 80 yards in 4 straight games. So Deebo Samuel is not a wide receiver 1. I'm not even sure if he's a wide receiver 2 anymore.
Look, Deebo's been a very popular choice on that list for many weeks now. When the Welsh was here over a month ago, before McCaffrey came here, and he was talking about that trend going, and then McCaffrey came, and then we started talking about it, and here we are in week 11, and we're still talking, and people are still overvaluing him. So it's time to move the guy with the big name. All right, let's take your questions here. And as always, they come straight from our Discord, fantasypros.com/chat. It is free to join, but those premium members, they get access to the AMAs, the stages, and a whole lot more with us. So go check that out. Let's get to Wanyeth. Wanyeth wants to know, 12-team PPR, Garrett Wilson or Rashad White. What end of this deal do you want to be on, Seifter?
Seems like a classic need-based question, but
it sure does.
In a vacuum, I think I'd go with Rashad White, actually, just because I feel like the upside is higher. Garrett Wilson is an extremely talented player, but he is really limited by just the offensive philosophy in New York, Zach Wilson's limitations. And then it sounds like they, reading the tea leaves, want to start getting Elijah Moore back involved in this offense in a big way coming out of their bye as well. So I feel like with Garrett Wilson, he's had a couple nice games lately, but it's just going to be hit and miss with him. Whereas with Rashad White, it might not work out, but if it does, you're talking about a guy that could be a bona fide league winner.
All right, Erickson, I want to ask you this question. This is on the fly here, too, because we didn't really talk about this player, and I think it's important. A lot of people are asking questions about him. This is from Snake03478. Walker, Jamar Chase for Kelsey and Stevenson. I'd be getting Walker and Chase. What do you think about that?
So it was Walker and Chase and then Kelsey and Stevenson, you said? Actually,
I think there's a misprint in here. He actually is getting DK, Chase, and Walker for Kelsey and Stevenson. So he wrote DO, but I think he went DK because then he recapped the deal and wrote DK. So let's give him credit here. He's getting DK Metcalf, Chase, and Walker here in this deal for Kelsey and Stevenson. It's a lot to give up, but do you want to roll the dice here with Jamar Chase? A lot of people asking Chase questions here. Where do you stand on him rest of season?
Well, I have to imagine that this manager has a good record because he's trading for 3 guys that are not playing this week. So I just hope just keep that in mind. Like Walker, Metcalf, and Chase are all not playing this week. So if he's, if he can combat, a loss this week or a loss next week and he's going to make the playoffs, then yeah, I think it is the move to make. Now, people are obviously valuing Kelsey very highly because of how bad tight end has been. Mark Andrews has gotten hurt. Guys are actually going. Dallas Goedert's hurt. Zach Ertz is hurt. Like tight end is
a wasteland of epic proportions in 2022.
So Travis Kelce is giving you an advantage, especially now if JuJu misses time too. But at the same time, Kenneth Walker is a league winner. Like running backs are the guys that win leagues, and Kenneth Walker fits that profile. You're still getting a great receiver in DK Metcalf, and then Jamar Chase. We mentioned it at several times on this show and the last show, but guys that can put up 30, 40 points in 1 week, that's all that matters. Oh, I just play Chase. Yeah. So I'm going to go after that side.
All right, Seifter, how about you? You want to go roll the dice here for the big upside of Chase coming back healthy here and take the L for a week, as Erickson said, when you're taking all these guys on the same bye?
Well, the other assumption is he must have some tight end that he feels okay starting if he's going to trade Travis Kelce and not get a tight end back in the deal.
Let's say it's
Higbee or something.
Yeah, let's call it Tyler Higbee. What's those boring vanilla tight end? That's a good one.
So in that sense, I like the deal then, because usually when you're giving up 2 guys and getting back 3. You're getting lesser players back, but the 3 players you're getting here are all really high-end players. They're not lesser players, really. So I feel like it's 3 studs for 2 studs in this deal, and I would take the 3 studs if you have some sort of reasonable plan at tight end.
All right, last one here from Schwartz with 2 Z's. Would you drop A.J. Dillon to get Cole Kmet off waivers? I have Fields at QB and Pitts is my tight end. Seifert, I think this is a move we can approve, yes?
Honestly, I don't believe in rostering 2 tight ends, so I would say no, because I would rather just stash A.J. Dillon in case Aaron Jones gets hurt, and then you've got this bell cow back, and make a choice about tight end. Make those tough choices in fantasy. Sometimes people try to procrastinate. They try to avoid the tough decisions. If you don't believe in Kyle Pitts anymore, then go ahead and get Cole Kmet and just cut Kyle Pitts. I mean, to me, they're both touchdown-dependent players in 2 of the most run-heavy offenses in football. So we can count the air yards for Kyle Pitts every single week if we want to, but the reality is he's had 1 or 2 big games all year and the rest have been under 30 yards.
I'm going to blow your mind. If I asked you in half PPR, Cole Kmet is tight end what on the year?
I'd be cheating because I think I saw it somewhere, but I believe it was tight end 7. Is that right?
7. He's tight end 7 on the year. I mean,
he had 0 catches in his first 2 games.
I don't care. He got 0 catches in the first 2 games, but he's got 5 touchdowns in his last 3.
He had a year and a half of touchdown regression that he was due, and he got it all in 3 weeks.
Cole Kmet is a good tight end. He was a good tight end at Notre Dame. He was a fantastic player there.
Well, I think
look. Here's the problem for Schwartz. He's got Pitts already past a bye, and Cole Kmet still has his looming, so he's going to need that second tight end at some point. That, I think, is the bind he's in, Erickson. So what do you want to do? You want to make this 1-for-1 swap, or you want to drop Dillon here? What do you do?
I mean, you could always try to trade Pitts. I mean, look, we just talked about all the tight ends are down.
Oh, that's a good one. I like that. You can try to trade.
People are looking up the waiver. There's Ertz manager doesn't have a tight end.
Go find the person who had Dallas Goedert.
There are a bunch of people looking for tight ends now, so yeah.
The real answer is you probably should just not take Kmet at all, because you're going to have to bid up to get Kmet, and it's a coin flip between Pitts and Kmet. Let's be honest.
All right, I will be the hype man for the tight end 7, Cole Kmet. Let's go. All right, gentlemen, this was super fun. Make sure you go follow Andrew Seifter over on the Twitter machine at Andrew_Seifter, SEIFTER, and check out the rest of season rankings podcast that he does and all of his great write-ups here at Fantasy Pros. That'll do it for us, but the story of the game goes on. For Andrew and Andrew, I'm Joey P. We'll see you next time, kids.